This is the
There we go.
Town of West Newbury Finance Committee. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Tonight, we're going to do things a little bit different. Obviously, this is the first time we've experimented with this medium. And when we take votes, we're probably going to have to do roll call because, you know, we're not all going to see if we're raising our hands. You okay with that, Brad?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, super. So has everybody read the meetings from the previous meetings?
Yes.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the meetings from March 12th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, being none, call them out, Brad.
Call what out?
Just call the names. Motion. We have a motion to approve. You got a roll call.
Okay.
Call me.
All right, Forbes,
Yes.
Nathan,
Approve.
Aye.
Gary,
Yes.
yes, Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes. Is that everyone?
Okay.
Jim, yes, approve.
Okay, so everything we're doing tonight, we've already voted on previously. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to have a motion to reconsider. The motion's going to need to have a majority. If that passes, then we get to have a new motion to consider the new amount. If that doesn't pass, then we have to either come up with the original amount or a new amount. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the first item we want to go over? Do we have people here with us that we want to get through? Angus, do you know?
I don't know. I have just unmuted everybody.
Okay.
So if there's any caller on the line from, say, Concom or library or other, if you could speak up.
Marcia Morris from the library trustees.
Okay, let's roll with the library.
So
Wendy Reed from Concom is also on.
Okay, we've got Concom and library.
Okay.
Board of Health.
Clarity is also here.
We've got Board of Health here as well.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
start with,
I would start by making a motion to reconsider the library line item budget.
all right, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, Brad, call the roll.
Forbes,
Approve.
Nathan,
Approve.
Gary,
Approve.
Jim,
Approve.
and Jessica.
Approve.
Okay,
Brad, approve.
okay, so now we have a suggestion by the Board of Selectmen. What's the will of the committee?
I make a motion to increase the library line item budget by $7,569 as recommended by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Could we possibly hold off on this just to see what happens with the COVID-19 thing? And the library may be closed until the end of the summer. Is now the time to be increasing staffing when historically people are actually out of work and not attending public places? It just seems strange, given everything that's happening, that we're adding new positions. I don't know. I don't feel strongly one way or another, however.
Anyone else?
I have similar concerns that go back to the original discussion of this line item, in the fact that we did already include 12 hours for cleaning and maintenance assistance in the library budget. I understand those are two different positions, but one of the things that's been suggested in the library material is that up to this point, staff had to spend time cleaning and taking care of the facility. And I was thinking that, having an additional resources there might free up some time and make the new part-time position not as immediate and pressing. So, and I have overall cost concerns as well.
Can I clarify? This is Corinne.
Please.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that the library staff does not routinely clean the building. They do some dusting, but the building is cleaned by the DPW, and that money is in the DPW budget. This is additional work that is not being done at all at the library. And one more addition. I imagine, as you are saying, that we will not need this additional person probably for the first few months of the fiscal year. And if that's the case, I don't plan to hire a new person until we're back to full programming and we need the person.
Okay. Any other comments by the members of the Finance Committee? All right. We have a motion to approve. We have a second. Brad, if you wouldn't mind.
Hold on a second. Let me get ready here. All right. And
Sorry, did you say Forbes?
Yep.
Nay.
Nathan,
Nay.
Gary,
Nay.
Jessica,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Brad, no.
Okay, so now we're in a situation where we either need a motion to accept the original amount or some alternative amount.
The original amount, the
Go
FinCom
ahead.
did already favorably recommend, so that's what would stand in the absence of a different motion.
Okay. All right, so I guess we're all done unless somebody else has an additional motion they'd like to make. All right, let's move on to conservation.
Make a motion to reconsider the conservation land agent line item of the budget.
Second.
Discussion.
I guess I would agree with what the Board of Selectmen suggested.
Are we voting on the motion to reconsider first, or are we discussing a change?
We gotta vote on the motion to reconsider and then, all right, so I guess we'll just call the roll because there's really not much to talk about till we get to the next step.
Yeah. Forbes,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead. We need a motion to,
I make a motion to decrease the conservation land agent line item by budget by $1,055 as recommended by the Board of Selectmen.
is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I have a question, Angus. Angus, I have a question. You hear me?
Yep.
Okay, does this type of wage adjustment by the Board of Selectmen create issues with like other town employees? Just sort of, agreeing to one sort of raise, but not to another?
So the initial proposed budget, as you know, had included a increase above COLA. And the selectmen subsequently recommended an increase just of COLA. So is your question, I guess, can you clarify your question?
I'm just wondering, if there's uniformity in the way that we sort of pay folks, we should try to maintain uniformity. If there isn't, then, it's kind of not an issue. I just
I think-
don't know.
Without taking sides on this issue, just, I think the context, I think the context for this is, we had a, 20-year incumbent who, left service. He retired at the end of the year. And so he'd been, top of grade, level. And, when the new agent was hired, that person was hired at the bottom of the level. And so the commission has looked at, some, different conservation agent wages, hourly wages in different towns, and feels that essentially a market adjustment is warranted. So that's the issue on the table, but it's not a straight, it's not, I don't read it as, it's not like a merit thing. It's more a, market adjustment is how I believe it was presented, but I don't want to speak for the commissioners, who I believe we have at least one on the call.
Okay, certainly they're entitled to have their time. If they have something they'd like
Yeah,
to share.
Yeah, this is Wendy Reed. This analysis, a market analysis that I presented, was based on a study from 2016, and of all surrounding towns, we're probably $4 to $5 per hour less than comparably sized towns. So this is something that we've been trying to have addressed for a while. I think a classification adjustment also needs to be made, but this would at least bring the position into the middle of the range that we have now, and that would put him at the bottom of the range of surrounding towns. I mean, one of the things we found when Jay Smith left was that nobody was interested in this position because the rate was so low. And we found somebody, and he's working out well, and we want to hang on to him. So I don't want to be in the same position of being without an agent because we can't offer, what other towns offer.
Hey, what's up?
Is there any further discussion? We have a motion to approve. We have a second. We've concluded discussion. Brad, if you would.
Forbes,
Nay.
and Nathan,
Yes.
Gary,
Nay.
Jim,
Nay.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, nay.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody was clear that the motion was to reduce the budget.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, wait, no, hold on. No, then I would say to reduce it. So I would say yes.
Okay, so
Don't get us
I
to
thought
vote.
there
I don't know what that
might be
means.
some confusion there.
So does that create a split? Because then
It does.
it would maintain the original amount. Right?
I'm not sure. So a split means, so that means it doesn't pass?
Wait.
That's the majority to
I think I was
pass?
confused by the negation of it too. So can we? I think I would be a yes as well.
Oh, all right. So let's just do. I'll just do the roll call over. Just for
Yes
simplicity.
means reduced. Yes
Yes.
means reduced.
So a yes vote is to reduce the Concom budget by 1,055, and a no vote is to keep the same budget that you previously referred, which had the 2 hours plus the 6% adjustment.
All right, Brad, call it again. We'll try it. We'll do it right this time.
Nay.
All right. Nathan,
Yes.
Gary,
Yay.
Jim,
Nay.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
Didn't change a thing.
Yeah, dude.
So
Angus,
Go on.
caller 8? We are getting a ton of feedback from caller 8. It's really difficult. to hear.
I just muted caller 8.
So I guess if it's a
Okay.
tie, it doesn't pass then.
It stays the way it was, right? I mean, that makes sense.
All right.
Okay, what's next? Police?
Yep, I make a motion to reconsider the police overtime line item budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Forbes,
Yes.
Nathan,
No.
Gary,
No.
Jim,
I just want to be clear what I'm voting on here. I'm voting for the Board of Selectmen's budget impact, which is minus $12,188. Is that correct?
No.
we're voting. We're voting to reconsider. it
Oh,
right
to consider at this point. Okay, yes. Sorry.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
Okay, we need a motion.
I make a motion to decrease the police overtime budget by $12,188 as recommended by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second? Okay, discussion.
I'm concerned about this. It feels rather arbitrary, and not only the number, but just the fact that this is being done at this timing. I think it's being done just for accounting purposes. We've had numerous discussions about the nature of police overtime, and it kind of is what it is in the sense that they are going to expend what they need, and we obviously want them to rein it in the sense that we don't want them to go crazy with it, but at the same time, the budget is going to be expended as it needs to be expended. But I just think that from an accounting perspective, we want to have a more accurate number, as we often discuss on many different items, that we want to have a truly reflected budget, and just hacking this down to $50,000 is not honest accounting.
Anyone
I would
else?
second that. I'd second that opinion.
Forbes?
I agree. I
Jim?
just thought we ought to discuss it.
I would agree.
Jessica, what do you got?
Can we hear from Angus and Stephanie about how the number was determined?
Sure. The original proposed number, you have the backup in your packet, and that was based on Chief Duran's projections based on FY21 wages and the number of hours per shift coverages, trainings, and so forth. So I want to just find the right page so I can direct you to that. That was on page 18 of your packet, I believe. So he's assuming, just for example, a total of 40 hours of training for each officer that would need to, that time in training would need to be backfilled. Court and overtime for court costs, which I've met with the chief on this a couple of times. It's essentially impossible for him to forecast because he doesn't know, which of the arrests or other issues will require officers to go to court. It's not the same officer or some subset of officers that go to court. It's whoever happens to be the arresting officer and is called. 2/3 of the officers don't work days in their normal shifts. They work, the second or third shift. So any court time whatsoever for any of those officers is inherently overtime because they're not scheduled during days. He's got holidays, coverage for holidays, as well as estimates on community policing events like National Night Out and the parade. So that's, so his number is basically, it's just the math based on those assumptions times those rates. And what you can see on page 19 of your packet is that year to date, he's, the department's trending well below the roughly 80% of the year that we're through. They've spent about $37,000 out of the $55,500 that was budgeted this year. So, Chief Duran will be the first to say he doesn't have a crystal ball, so he doesn't know if it's going to be toward what's budgeted or something lower like this year has been. But his recommendation is to budget for what, we think we might need based on reasonable projections. And so that was his rationale. And then the selectmen had proposed, a lower number, and I believe it was with the intent to constrain what could be spent on overtime. But when it comes down to it, the chief's got to, cover the staffing needs. So that's about all I can say about that.
Is there any further discussion?
Well, a budget is supposed to be what we reasonably believe to be expending for the year, and the chief of police would be the expert on what his budget it should potentially be. So I think we should trust what his judgment is.
Any further discussion? All those in
Right.
favor? Oh, sorry.
Let's go to
Go
a roll
ahead,
call.
Brad. Yeah, do it.
All right, so roll call. Dury,
No.
In this motion, let's be clear, this is to bring it down to the,
just to reduce
Right.
it.
okay, to reduce it.
Nathan,
No.
Gary,
No.
Jim,
No.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, no.
Okay, what's next?
I make a motion to reconsider the Whittier line of the education budget.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion? All those in, okay, Brad.
all right, so Dury,
Yes.
Nathan,
Abstain.
Dane, Gary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes. So 501.
Perfect.
I make a motion to decrease the Whittier line item in the education budget by $4,335 as recommended by the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
I may be missing this, guys, but I thought it was, according to the packet, 4,000, no, I'm sorry, 5,971.
Did I get the amount wrong?
Yeah, I think Forbes, you read the health
That
amount.
was health, sorry, you are correct. I make a motion to amend my motion.
yeah, let's just do the correct one.
Yep. So I make a motion to decrease the Whittier education line item out of the education budget by $5,971 recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Thank you, Jim.
Second,
Any discussion? Go ahead, Brad.
Forbes,
Yes.
Nathan,
Abstain.
Gary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
Okay. Health, I suppose.
Yep, make a motion to reconsider the health, public nurse health line item out of the Board of Health budget.
Second,
Any discussion?
no.
Okay, Brad, go ahead.
Dury,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
So I make a motion to reduce the Board of Health public health nurse line item budget by $4,335 as recommended by the Board of Selectmen.
Doesn't it increase? It increases.
Increase, right?
Sorry, I meant to say increase.
Second, with the verbiage increase instead of decrease.
Any discussion? All right, go ahead, Brad.
Dury,
Yep.
Nathan,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
Okay. That's all the budget stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay. Let's do the articles.
It is not on the list, but I would like to make a motion to reconsider the special town meeting, article number 4, snow and ice deficit. Vote.
I'll
Is there
second
a
that.
second?
All right, which article was that, Forbes?
Number 4.
Okay, Dury,
Yes.
Nathan,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
Okay, I do want to update the FinCom if I could.
Sure.
Board of Selectmen met earlier today, and they did vote to support sticking with the original number, the 61087 that appears in the printed warrant, with the direction to the DPW director to either reassign those costs to another appropriate line item if possible, or to seek a line item transfer. They did not want to create confusion with making a motion that differs from the printed warrant. They acknowledge the town council's advice that it would be legal to do so with the moderator's consent, but they understand that there's a lot of institutional memory about keeping that printed number as the ceiling, and so they don't want to wade into those waters over this issue.
Do you know, Angus, how much that the difference was there?
Yeah, it's let's see. Yeah, there's a you didn't get the updated memo. There was I can share the memo actually with you, because there was a updated I by accident left the number out. So what I'm going to do is share screen and share. So let me just zoom this in. Hopefully you can see this on your screens. This is the same memo that you have in your packet, but it has this sentence here, which basically I wrote the memo and then I meant to drop in this sentence. As I was writing this, I was conferring with Wayne and Stephanie and Jenny remotely. And then when I got the number, I forgot to go back and put it in the memo. So I sent the selectmen an updated memo and I forgot to send you one. The only difference of what's in your packet is this sentence I've highlighted. So yeah, the actual number, the adjusted number, I should say, is 64,562, which is exactly $3,475 above what's in the printed warrant.
Okay, thank you. So my question, and the reason why I want to bring this up for discussion again, is when the Finance Committee voted on this article on March 12th, the amount of the snow and ice deficit at that point was 27 and change. I don't have the exact number in front of me. And when we discussed it at that time, so I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but the response was something to the effect that there will be additional amounts between now and the end of the snow and ice season. But that number has more than doubled. And it just, I think there's been one event since the time that we voted. And I just don't understand where those $30,000 in additional charges come from. It doesn't make sense to me. And I know, I'm sorry, I'm catching a little off flat foot here because Wayne is not here, but that's my concern. I don't know if any of the other committee members share it, but a lot of money for one event.
Someone asked that a couple of years ago. I can't remember, but I thought the answer then, I don't want to speak for Wayne, but I think that sometimes the invoices come in very, very late. So it's like, I've heard sometimes they don't even get them into like July, a random invoice will come in. So I'm not sure if that explains some of it.
I can speak to a little bit of it. A lot of the contractors sent in their invoices super late. So nothing was in the system at that time when you had the first snow and ice, but I can't speak to the other invoices that Wayne has put through for snow and ice and really what they are.
So just to make sure I understand, what you're saying is on March 12th, a lot of the invoices for February, I'm making up the date, had yet to be submitted or had yet to be input in the system?
Correct. It takes the contractors a long time to submit their invoices. Exactly what Brad stated. So I kept in communication with the DPW director to get things paid. The contractors drag their feet.
Okay.
And I don't know historically if that's how it's been, but that's what I saw, or at least this year.
Yeah, it's that's definitely a valid explanation, but the overall number, when I sit back and I look at it, and I asked Wayne about this when he presented, we have a big year for basically a non-event year, and that last 30,000 increase is just I don't know, I have a problem with it. So that's it. I'm done on my part. I don't know if anyone else has anything to say.
The number's been changed. We have to vote on it, right? I mean, because it's a new number based on the last vote. Is that correct, Angus?
Yes. Yes.
Wait, no, I thought we're keeping it the same. We're not changing it.
We're keeping it what's in the warrant, but when we voted on it, it was $27,000.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
It's up 30,000 since we voted.
Yeah, so we're voting on $61,087.
Correct.
Yes.
So we need a motion and a second on that, I think, and then we.
So I make a motion to approve STM number 4 for the amount of I don't have it in front of me, 61,000. What is it, Jim? Thought you had it right there.
61,087.
$61,087.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a discussion here. So if we vote against this, what actually pragmatically happens? Like what? How will?
Probably nothing.
Angus or Stephanie, could you explain? So if we say no, the FinCom's against it, what pragmatic with the DPW, and I mean, what's the consequence?
So if town meeting were to follow your recommendation and vote it down as part of the year-end closeout and the tax rate recap to DOR in the fall, Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the DOR would assign this overage to free cash and it would come out of free cash. Is that correct?
Yes.
This isn't a vote to vote the whole number down. This is just a vote to change it to make our vote match what's in the warrant. I think that's
Right.
what Jim's asking.
Yeah.
So nothing.
Any other discussion?
All right, Dury,
No.
Nathan,
No.
Gary.
No.
Really, you guys. All right. Jim,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
Okay, what's next?
So that motion does not pass. All right. Like I said, I really don't know what that means.
Well, no, so then in this case, isn't that our vote will be reflected as a split vote, right?
No recommendation.
We're
No,
re-voting the
This was a
article.
vote. This was a vote to change our approval amount to match that listed on the warrant. So I think we approved the article, correct?
Yes, we did it. We did it the amount of 27,000, but because the amount has changed, we needed to re-vote whether we approved the article or disapproved it at the new amount. Is that right, Angus?
Yes,
So
Okay.
this vote is for the finance committee, whether they approve or disapprove of the amount that's listed on the warrant, and we split the vote.
We split the vote. Okay. All right.
I make a motion to reconsider the annual town meeting Article 9, the school stabilization transfer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Barry?
Yes.
Nathan?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Brad, yes. All right.
There anyone from Board of Selectmen on the call?
Seems like no.
So I make a motion to approve annual town meeting article number 9 with the new amount.
Is there a second?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Caller number 9 is echoing.
Gotta mute 9.
I guess that's
What,
better.
would you like me to do that again, Brad?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
That's okay. I make a motion to approve annual town meeting article number 9, the school stabilization transfer with the new amount as listed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
Does this mean the impact of the new school wouldn't be felt at all for this fiscal year by the taxpayer at this new amount?
yes. Yes,
Thank you.
I have serious concerns about this for a number of reasons, not the least of which is I don't think that finances are going to improve within the next year or two. In fact, it could conceivably get worse. And, you know, town politics is a lot like baseball. Everybody does it and they complain about the whole thing. I think stabilization, especially for the school thing, is one of the best things I've ever seen in local government, where they're self-financing something prior to actually engaging in the project. So I understand the intent of this by the Board of Selectmen, and I completely get it, but I don't know if we've seen the worst of the financial impact of what's happening right now. There's going to be less state aid. There's going to be less federal money. These things are undeniably true. And we don't know where the community's going to be or the residents are going to be financially, you know, in the next 18 months. There's just no way to tell. And I think we'd be better off maybe even just splitting it in half than we would doubling.
So my concern about the change here, I understand the purpose behind it. It's a very obviously difficult and challenging economic environment. And the purpose of doing this is to defray or deflect a potential tax impact on the residents of West Newbury. However, this discussion, at least to my knowledge, hasn't taken place in conjunction with the other discussion of the use of free cash later this year, potentially to further offset the tax rate. And I think if those two were taken together, we would have a maximum deflection of tax impact this year, but we would have ended up spending a huge portion of the town's savings in those two accounts, where the chairman just, I believe, properly explained that the economic impact of what's going on right now is going to occur over several years. And we could easily find ourselves in a position next year where we have the free cash is significantly diminished, and we've shortened the number of years that we're going to receive benefit from school stabilization. I understand it's well-meaning and well-intentioned, but it also leaves the door open for a huge hit on savings.
Who else has something to say?
Well, just
I
the
agree
same
with-
way, go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Sorry, Brad. I agree with Gary's comment and Forbes' addition to that. And I also think at town meeting in the future, let's say, fiscal year 2022, for example, we're going to have a lot of explaining to do then. To me, it's just causes confusion. We have a plan, and I would say let's stay with that plan. That's my feeling.
Jessica, how about you?
I agree. I agree with what each of you has said so far.
Brad, do you have anything to add?
Sounds like we're all in agreement.
Okay.
So just to be clear, before Brad calls roll, so if we're in agreement with Gary's comments, we're voting no, correct? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Yep. So voting no is going to leave everything the same.
Got it. Thanks, Brad.
All right. Forbes,
So no.
Jim,
No.
Jessica,
No.
Gary,
No.
Nathan,
No.
Brad, no.
Okay.
I make a motion to reconsider annual town meeting article number 11, the 300,000 transfer to stabilization.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, yes vote allows reconsideration of this article. Go ahead, Brad.
Let me try it in the reverse. Are there any no's? All right, 6-0 approved.
Sounds like a winner.
I make Angus, will you check me on this? I make a motion to take no action on annual town meeting article number 11, the 300,000 transfer to stabilization.
It's
That's
kind of
what-
too late for that, isn't it?
Sorry?
We already approved the motion to reconsider it. So if we're going to take no action, we probably should have done that before we approved it. Because we already made a motion to consider it, right?
I think Forbes is saying to recommend at town meeting take no action. Is that right, Forbes?
Yes, I'm sorry. That's what I mean. And that's in line with what the Board of Selectmen are recommending. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Oh, I got you. Okay. So this is to remove it from the warrant entirely.
No, it's on the warrant. The FinComs right now got a favorable recommendation to transfer the 300K into stabilization. The selectmen had initially taken the same position, but subsequently is now recommending no action, meaning to not move those funds from free cash to stabilization. And I believe that was Forbes' motion.
Correct.
Oh, so the implication being if we say no, that might say that we don't agree with the projects. But this is more like we just don't want to act on it because of the situation.
Yeah, well, and the board, the board where it changed its position on this and the plow truck They did talk about should they remove them from the warrant, but the thought was, you know, they wanted to leave them on the warrant, and I should be clear, I recommended they stay on the warrant because, you know, we went through a process to get to this point. They were brought forward and proposed for good reasons and for good basis. So even if town meeting takes no action, it's important to have that institutional record that took place, and that it was their change in recommendation was really entirely a function of this pandemic.
So to clarify, if we agree with the Board of Selectmen's position on here, we're voting no?
Yes. I think-
Okay,
Well, you're recommending no action, which was Forbes's motion. You're recommending that the meeting take
Yes,
no.
we got no action, right?
yeah, so that would be an affirmative vote.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
I'll
Gary?
second.
Yes.
No,
Kelly,
Yes.
Roberts,
no,
Jessica,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Brad, yes.
so was that vote 5-1?
5-1.
Okay, got it.
I make a motion to reconsider annual town meeting article number 15, the plow truck.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Go ahead, Brad.
Yuri,
Yep.
Kelly,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes,
Jim,
Yes,
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
Okay, so, and Angus, will you check me again, please? I make a motion to take no action on annual town meeting article number 15.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So the one thing I don't understand about this, which I think is different from the other ones, is the funding for the plow truck is a capital appropriation. It's been on the books for a while. It went through CIC, and it was ranked as an important investment. The act of and also we have saved specifically for this item. So if we defer this particular investment, it's not the 200 whatever thousand that we in air quotes save. We're not really saving because it's not like the money goes back to free cash. It just sits there in stabilization for another year, as does the need for the truck. Is that relatively accurate, Angus?
Yes.
So what's behind the Board of Selectmen's rationale for postponing this? Sorry, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. Why do you think they came up with this decision?
Well, they, in light of their own concerns about the current situation, how it may affect or will affect town revenues and expenses going forward, they basically, took a look back at any article and anything whatsoever they felt they could defer. They wanted to at least put that on the table for discussion. In many cases, they kept the same recommendation that they had made initially. For instance, on the playground, they continue to support the playgrounds. And part of their thinking there is that the money is in CPC, so it is not available in the event of shortfalls in other revenues. The same could be said for stabilization. But in this case, when they were going back through looking at it, they brought Wayne in for a meeting. Wayne said because this winter was lighter, most of the events were ice events, not snow. The truck did get less use this winter than he thought it would when he put that article in back in the winter. So he felt that they could get by. You know, he did say, and we all know that just adds it to an FY22 list, and it doesn't take anything else off the FY22 list. So this expense will still be waiting for us. But I think they were just looking at anything they felt they could defer.
Okay.
I think if the DPW director himself is saying we can hold off on this for another year, then we should hold off on for another year. The money will still be there in the fund. And if a more pressing capital need shows up in the next year, then you know, you're kind of out of luck that you decided to push it off for a year. And that may very well happen where this item, which was 1 or 2 on the list, is suddenly 4, 5, 6 on the list.
I agree.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, Nathan, you have to listen to the expert. In this case, the expert's the DPW director. And if he says can get by without it this year, then let it roll.
I mean,
Plowing is a service.
a more pressing
Plowing
thing
is a service
would be
for
something
everybody.
with.
And
Sorry, Gary.
okay.
I just think a more pressing thing, it might even be within the DPW that something, you know, happens within this next year, and, you know, that priority. If we have a chance to hold on to this money for another year and see what happens for the next year, then let's do it.
I don't know. DPW service is a service that every person who lives in town receives. This isn't a truck that we can just run down to the dealership and pick up. This takes
You're
months
right.
to construct. And, you know, if you use a light truck in a heavy truck capacity, you shorten the life of the light truck. It doesn't, you know, it's not like you just say, I'm going to use this as a big truck now. That's not the way that works.
But it sounds like he essentially didn't use it this year.
I don't know. I mean, we're building charging stations, which is an asset that we don't need, that we haven't set aside any funds to maintain. And yet we have a plow truck that everybody benefits from, and we're taking that off, even though we've saved the money for it. It doesn't make sense to me. But I understand. I mean, if you guys think it's okay to wait a year, vote your conscience. That's cool with me.
Any other
Both-
discussion? All right, so Dury,
Yes.
Unmuted.
Kelly,
Yes.
Roberts,
Feedback off caller 9 again. Can caller 9 identify themselves?
Well, I just unmuted caller 9 and the feedback came right back. So I muted caller 9 again, but just because I don't know who caller 9 is and I didn't. But I'll unmute caller 9 again.
Unmuted.
Yeah, there's the feedback. Caller 9, can you identify yourself?
Okay.
all right, technical challenges notwithstanding. So we have a motion to take no action on ATM number 15. And so we had Dury, yes, Nathan, yes, and Roberts.
No.
Jim,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Brad, yes.
All right. I think that's it, right?
Yep. All I have.
What's the will of the committee?
Before we do that, just as a housekeeping note, I'll be back in touch with some of you because the votes have changed. So obviously our work continues. I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
If I could, one comment before you wrap up.
Yeah.
This is very preliminary, but I do want to just make you aware there are conversations going on at a staff level at this point about whether June 1st is going to be a workable date for town meeting, given social distancing and so forth. So I just want to make you aware that topic is going to be on the selectmen agenda a week from tonight. I have no idea what direction it's going to go, but since you're all here, I wanted to share that information.
It is a quick note then before we vote on the adjournment. we did build, or I did build 1 extra week in for the book. We had 3, if the book goes out on Monday, that's 3 weeks prior to the scheduled June 1st meeting. Should we wait, should we plan deferring for 1 more week to print the book? And I'm open to whatever people think about that. Or should we just plan on June 1st and get it out?
Actually, I just get it done. What's the point in waiting? One less thing to worry about, right?
Well, it does have the date of the meeting in the packet.
Oh, no, then wait. Yeah, wait, because this thing's been changing every single week.
We should just have it polished and ready to print, though. Yes. Polished and ready to print.
Yes.
I agree.
Oh, Forbes, I think you mentioned in an email, you had questions about a couple of the line items. I don't know if we want to discuss that as a committee before we wrap. It was about the school playground item, about the descriptions, something about them you didn't like or wanted to discuss.
It was the rationale. I wanted to work with the pro and the against people for the playground. I had Jim and I had discussed that, and I wanted to follow up on that. But it wasn't actually revoting. It was more just getting some detail in there, because I know from the feedback from Facebook and all of you that that's going to be a hotly sort of discussed item at town meeting. And I wanted to make sure that we, gave people as much as we could reasonably give in terms of information to help make decisions. So that was why I included that.
And for the floor vote, I just want to shout out to Nathan. He really helped me a lot with kind of writing it. And we sent that to you this morning, Forbes. So maybe you can take
got it. Thank you.
what you think and whether it makes sense still, and whether it kind of hits the points.
Thank you very much.
So I wrote the against opinion, and I guess my thoughts were, it's like, I think you're either going to be for it or you're going to be against it, but I don't know if 2 or 3 or 10 paragraphs is going to change someone's mind. I think it's just, the issues are pretty simple. It's just whether you agree with them or not. So I was just curious to get some direction for if everyone else felt like that description wasn't reflecting their views, I can try to rewrite it, but I just need to know what you want me to write.
Yeah, so you want to do that offline? I can call you or email you, whichever you prefer, and walk through that. I mean, there's a cost issue and some other detail that I recall from the meeting that was discussed about opening the door for other playgrounds, possibly being non-ADA compliant, and basically opening the door to other future expenses. So,
were there any other committee members and any considerations? Yes, obviously me and you can discuss that, Forbes. Anyone else have any comments or anything they want us to include?
Thanks, that's a good point, Brad.
Okay, nice.
Hey, before we adjourn, can I ask Angus and the fellow committee members on an unrelated question to what we were talking about? That major new housing development that's coming into town, the 40B project on 73 acres off of Coffin Street. Does the finance committee, do we actually take a position on that at some point, or is that something completely like out of our scope and realm? Or I guess what can we be involved, or should we be involved, or are we going to be involved, I guess is my question.
Angus, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what my understanding is that over the years, that type of permitting issue is not something the finance committee has weighed in on. With that said, the way I read, and I haven't read your bylaw recently, and certainly not read it with regard to that specific issue, but my reading of your bylaw is that it gives this committee pretty broad standing to look into anything with any financial impact on the town. It's written pretty broadly, as I recall. So I think if the committee wanted to look into it, if you asked my office for information, I'll provide any information that you want. I will tell you that, from going through a lot of permitting for, 40B permits and others, some of the analysis that towns often do for a project of this scale is would include something like a fiscal impact analysis. And right now I'm working with the ZBA and the building inspector and town council to dust off and update the town's 40B regulations, which haven't been updated since 2002. And one of the major objectives I had in initiating that effort is to make sure that our regulations provide the town clear authority to require the number and type of third-party reviews that would be typical for in the modern day, and that would include a fiscal impact analysis. So I would expect, and I think we're on track to get some updated regulations in place by the end of the fiscal year. Therefore, those would apply to any proposal that we would expect to receive. So we're doing what we can to make sure the ZBA, as the permit authority, would have the data and the tools that it needs to make an informed decision. With all of that said, a fiscal impact analysis is a useful planning tool. It's not necessarily something that can justify, well, it's really not something that can justify denying a comprehensive permit. There's a lot of
It's probably in our best financial interest to go forward with the project.
it generates some revenue, it generates some costs. A fiscal impact analysis, helps you determine whether it's a net winner or a net loser financially, but that's not the case law is really clear that doesn't, substantiate a denial of a 40B any more than it does for a market rate housing development. With that said, it's useful information. It's something I recommend doing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, answers my question.
So there's a motion to adjourn on the floor.
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
All
Brad,
those
go ahead.
against adjourning? All right. It's just one against. Other than Roberts, we have 5-4. All right.